RC family. This video go out to my boy Easy Does It 135. He want to know get some information on how to do his diffs and what conditions for what weight or diff to use, what weight or diff oil to use. So Easy Does It. Here we go, baby. All right, let me flip this thing around. RC family, we back. EKJ 24,000. Just here tonight, like I said, I got this video. It's really dedicated to my boy Easy Does It 135. He asked me what conditions would you use thicker diff oils, compared to like a thinner diff oil. So in the front diff is the less critical. I'm saying that you can put a heavier oil in the front or a thinner oil and it won't affect the car as much. The most critical diff is really the center diff and your rear diff, that you're going to tell the biggest difference between the center diff and the rear diff is going to be more critical. You can tell the bigger difference in the thickness of the oil. So basically in the front diff, you may want to run, let's say, I always run like a 12.5, 12,500 weight. That's what this is. I always run 10,000, 10,000 to 7,000, and sometimes maybe 5,000. It's the less weight, the thinnest I would run in the front diff. And what the front diff basically does is the steering going into the corner, it gives you more. With the thicker diff, it gives you more cornering, more steering going into a corner. My bad, I'm sorry. With the thicker diff, it gives you more off power. Make the car more stable off power. With a thinner diff, with a thinner oil in the front diff, it gives you more steering going into a corner. Like I said, with a thicker oil, it makes the car a little bit more stable and not as much steering, but easier to drive going into the corner. And then when you coming out the corner, getting on the gas, accelerating with a thicker front diff, it's gonna give you more drive coming out the corner, going down the straightaway. It's gonna give you more drive. It's gonna make your car a little bit more faster with the thicker oil in your front diff. Okay, in the center diff, I mostly run 12,500 or maybe 15,000 to up to 20,000. And mostly with the bashers, a lot of those guys would run 50,000, 60, almost to 80 or 90,000 in the front, and it's going to the center diff thickness. Far as racers, like I said, the highest I go up to is the most is like 20,000 for the center diff. And what that's going to do is going to give you more drive out the corner, more drive going down the straightaway. When I say more drive, it's going to make your car accelerate harder. It's going to put more power to the ground when you got a thicker center diff. So keep that in mind. Only thing about that is different conditions. If you're on a loose track with a thicker center diff, you would want to maybe go down on your oil, because you don't want to be spinning. It's going to make you spin out in loose terrain. That situation, you might want to go with a thicker diff. Might want to go with a thicker front diff. A thinner front diff and a thinner center diff. When it's loose, on a loose track, you might go with a thinner center diff when the track is loose. I'm going to give y'all some examples in a minute to show y'all what kind of conditions would you go thinner or thicker far as your diff oils. So, okay, the benefit with, like I said, the thicker oil in the center, it's gonna give you more drive. It's gonna make your car faster. It's gonna make the power go to the ground, which is gonna make you have more forward bite. It's gonna make your car accelerate faster. You'll be able to tell it with that thicker center diff. With a thinner diff, it's gonna bleed out the power. It's gonna bleed the power out to the front or the rear diff. And it's gonna make your car more controllable. It's not gonna be as fast, so it's gonna be more easy to drive with a lighter, thinner center diff. And like I said, the center diff is one of the most critical. You can tell the difference in the center diff and the rear. The rear diff, going to the rear of the car, the rear diff, I used to run like maybe the highest is 7,000 weight oil to 7, 5,000, 4, 3, some conditions 2. It's just more critical. It's gonna give you car gonna be more stable in the rear, going into a turn. If you run a thicker rear diff, and if you run a thinner, like 3,000 in the rear, you might want to be careful, because if you're on a tight track or a track with a lot of turns, a thinner rear diff like 3,000, 2,000 would be good, because it's gonna make your car rotate in the corner. Once you slow down, it'll make it rotate off power around the turn easier. And it also depends on your driving style. If you're more of a guy that slows down and then turn, you could probably go with a thinner diff. But if you're a guy that drives into the corner and then hit your brakes on your controller and break loose the rear end and get the whip around the turn, you may also, that's a good thing to go with a thinner center diff if you drive that kind of style. But with that, if you don't, and if you have a thinner center diff and you kind of more of an aggressive guy going into the corner that like breaks the traction loose in the rear and then get around the turn, if you run a thinner center diff with that driving style, your car gonna break traction easy. It's gonna come around the corner too fast on you. It's gonna break traction easier, way easier with a thinner center diff. So it's more, if you're that kind of driving style person that likes to drive into a corner aggressively and then break the car loose in the rear to get around the corner, then you might want to go with a little bit heavier, thicker diff, like 7,000 or 5, or maybe 4,000. But if you're the guy that stops and then turns, then you might want to go with a 3 or 2. It just make like I said, make the rear end reacts faster, or make the rear end more controllable. It's more controllable with the heavier weight oil, diff oil in the rear, and it makes it more active, break loose quicker with a thinner rear diff. So that's why I say it's more critical. You can tell your car how it's going to react, especially with the rear diff. It's more critical, and the center diff. The front, only thing the front really does is less critical, because of you may run a thicker oil up front. Thicker oil is gonna make the car easier to drive, more stable going into a turn. But if you go with a thinner diff oil in the front, it's gonna make the car drive more. You can give your car a little bit more steering with the lighter, thinner front diff oil. So that's that. I'm gonna give y'all some situations here on the screen so y'all can see. Like at this track here, okay. This is at RCGP. This is at RCGP when we was up there in North Carolina, Piedmont. And this track here, turn it down. See, this track here was more of a high bite track. So at a track that's got more high bite, you might want to go a high grip track. You would go with a thicker diff setup all the way around. Like you may want to run, like I said, that 12,500 weight in the front, or you may want to go to like a 20,000 weight in the front. You see how the corners are more sweeping. It's on really 180 turn with two. There's one right there, and then there's one on the other end of the track over that way. So with this track, high grip, you go with a thicker diff setup, like I said, 12.5 in the rear, in the front, and maybe like a 12.5 in the center. Let's give you more drive, high grip, so you're gonna need the speed. And maybe in the rear, you may go either 5,000 or 7,000 in the rear, because you want your rear to flow and give you a little bit more drive because it's a high grip track. So that's what you do on a track like this, high grip. You go with a thicker diff oil setup like that. Okay. Next, let me stop this one. Okay, next track I'm gonna show y'all is my home track, the Warehouse, which is more of a medium grip. It's like a medium. It's high to medium grip. It's medium to low. It just depends on the weather, really. But it's a medium grip track. Okay. Okay, with this one, hold on, let me get through this commercial. Okay. With a track like this, medium grip track, you may want to go with like 7 in the front, so you can get around these turns, something kind of light. And you may want to go with like maybe 10,000, or you can go to 12.5. It still got a lot of grip, but it's small, so you don't need a whole lot of drive. So you can go with like a 7, 10, 3,000 in the rear, because you need the 3 to get around these tight corners. See how tight that is, 180. So you need that 3,000, a thinner rear diff, a thinner rear diff oil to get around these tight corners. So on a track like that, you may go with like a 710-3 diff setup with a condition like this. Okay. All right, the next one I want to show y'all is more of a loose, loamy track. Okay, let me get to it. A loose, loamy situation. Okay, like right here. Okay, this situation right here, y'all see how it's dusty? It's more loose, loamy situation like this. You may want to go with like a maybe 7 or 5 in the front, just so you can get some good steering in a loose and not having so much drive. So you may go with like 7 or 5 in the front. In the center, you may can try 7,000 in the center diff, because you don't want a whole lot of drive, because you don't have that much traction in the track itself. It's loose, and that's gonna keep your tires from spinning with like a 7,000 center diffs setup. In the rear, you may want to go like from 5,000, 3,000 in the rear, because it's like I said, it's loose. But you don't want your rear to come around too fast, because the track's already loose. See, I may could have used maybe a 7 or a 5,000 in the rear, just to make the car a little bit more stable in the rear. See how it's I'm losing the rear end a little bit. So just keep that in mind in conditions like this. And if okay, if you're bashing, even for the bashers, I'm gonna give you a scenario for your basher. You want a good diff setup for when you're bashing. I can show y'all. Even with the bash guys, you may want to set up, like, for instance, like this. We're gonna go to this video. If you're out bashing and you come on, when you bashing on a situation with just grass and dirt like this, like this situation in the field, then you want to just heavy diffs. You may go to heavy all the way around. Like, you may go heavy as you can find, like 50,000 front, 50,000 center, and maybe 50,000 in the rear. Because you want all your power. You want good drive, all your power to bash with. 50,000 or even heavier than that. Whatever you can find that's like heavier diff fluid. Like I said, heavier diff fluid gonna give you more drive. Give you more drive out the hole. You need that while you're bashing. So a heavy diff oil package all the way through, 50,000, maybe 80,000 or something like that in the center, maybe a million if you come across a million oil, and maybe like a 70,000 or 50 or something like that in the rear. So you can get just a good drive, good power to the ground. So for the bashes, one more. We're gonna go one more. One more for the bashes. If you're in the if you're bashing in a situation with a lot of loose dirt, dusty. Let me find it. Like this, I was right here at a construction part of a construction area, and it was just totally loose dirt, real dusty. Y'all gonna see in a few seconds. See how loose and dusty it is at this construction site. So if you're in a situation or you're running in something like this, then you may want to drop down to maybe like a 30,000 diff oil, front, rear, and center, because it's just so loose and dusty. You ain't gonna do it but just spin out everywhere you go. So you may want to drop down from that big 70,000 weight oil in front and center diff and rear diff. So you may want to drop down to like a 30 weight oil if you go into an area like this with a lot of dust, because all that drive that you're going to get with that heavier diff oils is going to make you spin out and just spin in this loose dirt. So you want to just find some traction. So you might go down to like a 30,000 weight, somewhere up in there, 30,000, 50,000, right up in that range if you're bashing. But if you was racing in a situation the track was this dusty, then we might want to go with a lighter, like a 7 in the front, 7 in the center, and maybe like a 4 in the rear if you're racing in a situation that's real dusty like that, just so you can get some good traction and get some good power to the ground and not be spinning everywhere. So yeah, EKJ 24,000. Just giving you some setup stuff you can do, some setup situations with your diffs. That may can help you. And easy does it. I hope that helps, bro. You know, and give you a good idea how to set your diffs up, and you can enjoy your racing or either your bashing, and give you a good idea of, you know, when you should go down on diff oils and when you should run a thicker diff oil versus a lighter diff oil. And I just hope that helps y'all. EKJ 24,000. If you ain't ripping, you're tripping. Let them haters be your motivators. Actions speak louder than words. Left tie salute. I'm out.